The Eurovision Song Contest is one of the biggest music events in the world. Around 180 million people watch it every year. I was curious about the brand design of the contest, so that's what we look at in this video. Before we start, we have to make some important distinctions. The Eurovision Song Contest is the music event we know and love, and each year's event has its own logo, which we look at later. But the Eurovision Song Contest is not to be confused with Eurovision. That one is not an event, but an international TV network owned and operated by the European Broadcasting Union, or EBU. The EBU is an alliance of public service media and has 113 member organizations, such as the BBC from the United Kingdom, the ARD from Germany, and many others. In summary, each country's public TV network come together in the EBU to organize the Eurovision Song Contest, which is distributed back to the members through the Eurovision network. So let's have a look at the logos of this Eurovision network. The original Eurovision logo was designed in 1954 by Timothy O'Brien from the BBC. It was first used 2 years later when the first Eurovision Song Contest took place in Lugano, Switzerland, and was then in use for almost 4 decades. The broadcasts of the ESC would start and end with this logo, and the host country national TV logo would be placed in the middle of this circle. TVs, of course, didn't have color yet, so this logo didn't either. It features the Eurovision name aligned in a circle with stars between the letters. The 12 stars burst outwards to fill the entire TV screen, kind of promising to fill the evening with good entertainment. The stars and the modern font with a big stroke contrast both give luxury and excellence. The stars might be a reference to the EU flag, which also has 12 of them. But let's face it, by today's standards, this would be an awful, too detailed, illegible logo, but in the 50s this logo didn't have to accomplish what today's logos have to. It didn't have to be used in different scenarios, it was only seen on standard-sized TVs and mainly by an audience who deliberately put on the Eurovision Song Contest. It just had to convey the spectacle that was about to happen, and I think it does a pretty good job at that. It does look like a celebration with fireworks. In 1993, it was decided to bring fresh wind into the Eurovision logo. This logo feels very much like corporate 90s. They didn't go for the full-on 90s aesthetic, but for just a little bit of playfulness. And you can actually find some meaning in this weirdness. The swooshes might be stylized V's for Vision, Eurovision, and the fact they're coming together inside the wing can be interpreted as European unity. But overall, this logo feels kind of cheap to me. To me, it has none of the charm of the old logo and none of the professionalism of the logo that would follow it. Not that one. That's just a slight redesign that was used for another 9 years. After 19 years, the logo I loved so much was finally replaced with a new design. This one was made by the London-based design agency Dunning Jones. Just the written out name would already have been better than the previous logo, but they went the extra mile and added some interest to the wordmark. The O is surrounded by 2 parts of a circle. Maybe it's a symbol for sound waves or echo, or is it a microphone, or maybe it's an eye because Eurovision. I couldn't find out what it's supposed to represent, but the fact that there are multiple possible explanations is already a good sign. I much prefer this to the previous logo, and my hope in humanity is restored. So the overarching Eurovision logo was shown at the start of each Eurovision Song Contest. But it was followed by another logo that was unique to that year's contest. Let's have a look at all of them. And while we're at it, why not rank them? So let's start with the first ever Eurovision Song Contest logo from 1956. It says Eurovision Grand Prize of European Song in Italian, because the contest took place in the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland. Writing out this long of a name will be a common theme in the first years of Eurovision Song Contest logos. The first and more important line is in a thick, condensed slab styro font that really gives Western movie. The second line is the polar opposite, a thin italic script font. And below that is the logo of the host broadcaster. Most of the later logos didn't include the host's logo because it's really quite redundant. I put this in C tier. In 1957, the text was in French, in a fancy script font, with 11 stars around the words. I can barely call this a logo, F tier. In 1958, it seems like they predicted Clippy, the friendly Windows poltergeist. This would fit in a modern art museum. I would love to hear what would be interpreted into this. To me, it seems very random, and the event name is so tiny in the corner. F tier. In 1959, the year is the most prominent part of the logo. There's also this artwork that is quite unclear. It vaguely looks like a human body, but apart from that, I don't know what's going on. C tier. In 1960, we are back to only text. C tier. 1961 brings us another word mark with what looks like lettering from an Asterix comic or something. C tier. In 1962 we got another text-only logo, and it's a very overwhelming block of text. C tier. In 1963 we finally have an original idea again. I'm no musician, so I don't know what this song would sound like, but it sure is a creative reference to a musical scale using the flags of all participants. I just don't love how they put it together. C tier. In 1964, they basically took the logo from 1957 and removed all the unnecessary stuff. It's the same font and everything. This is all it took to get the best ranking so far. B tier. In 1965, we have a logo that is strangely familiar. They used the Eurovision Network logo as a base. It's a bit much, but it's not the worst we've seen so far. C tier. In 1966, they had this bloated word mark. I like the font, but I don't like what they did to the font. C tier. 1967 brings us another long word mark, but it has some Art Deco elegance to it. I think this is the best pure word mark we've seen so far. A tier. The 1968 logo brings back the Eurovision Network logo again, but it's quite bland. They didn't really add a new twist to it. C tier. In 1969 we got yet another installment of the Eurovision logo, but this time with a red circle in the middle. This would make perfect sense if the host was Japan, but last time I've checked, they weren't part of Eurovision. For the actual host Madrid, I don't see why they put this circle there. Madrid's flag might be red, but it's not a circle, so it doesn't really make sense. For me. C tier. In 1970 it looks like a Captain America fan got to work. It very much looks like a shield with a star in the middle, but it's also made of 4 music notes. This clever idea makes this one my favorite so far. A tier. The 1971 logo is very 70s. The word mark surely pops, but it's not very readable, like at all. F tier. The 1972 logo also feels very 70s with these round striped letters, and it's definitely better than the previous logo. B tier. In 1973 they've used some variant of the iconic Bauhaus font, which can work really well in some contexts, but here it feels very random and unrelated. The alignment and the color also don't help. F tier. The 1974 logo is a testament of its time. The dove as a peace symbol illustrated the vision of Eurovision, spreading peace through music. An especially important mission in that time when the Vietnam War and the Cold War were still going on. It combines the dove with a microphone, perfectly illustrating the concepts of peace and music. Also, the microphone kinda looks like a globe, so it even implies world peace. It's a 2-for-1 deal. This is one of the few logos so far with a clever concept behind it. A tier. In 1975, there was too much text in the logo. The fact they even included the host broadcaster and the exact date of the event really makes it feel like a poster. The only thing missing is the address. F tier. In 1976, they thought it would be a great idea to include the flags of all participants, which could work if you do it right, but the fully colored flags bring too much visual clutter. They also reused the well-made icon from the 1970 logo, but it gets lost in the background. What a shame, treating a good logo like that. F tier. The 1977 logo plays it safe. It has no new idea, it simply states the year and the contest name. They took no risks, but they also didn't make an awful logo. B tier. In 1978, they used this absolutely ginormous E as the base of the logo. It could also vaguely hint at a keyboard or a guitar, but I doubt that was the purpose. The text inside the E is very thin and hard to read. C tier. The 1979 logo uses a clef, how do you pronounce it? Anyways, it's partly constructed with text, more specifically the participating countries. It's a nice idea, but the thing is, it has so many details, it works better as a poster than as a logo. Still, it deserves B tier. In 1980, they used the shield icon from 1970 and 1976 for one last time. They put the icon on a big circle, making it look like a vinyl record, which works really well. The font feels fun and quite unique and fits perfectly in the early 80s. The font Plaza was made just 5 years before this contest, so it must have felt very up to date at that time. The bold letters in uppercase scream confidence and fit the Eurovision Song Contest very well. S tier. 1981 brings us a very unique logo with a strong color contrast and an interesting outline font. The words aren't really aligned anywhere, which might be a statement, but to me it looks a bit unfinished. The O's have some maps inside them. The first one shows the host country, Ireland. The second one shows Europe. I'm usually not a fan of maps and logos, but it fits in the 80s. 8 here. 1982 poses the question, what if the Eurovision Song Contest existed in the 17th century? This logo strongly contrasts the logo of the year before. It's very baroque and very regal with that flower design, golden color and the symmetry of the logo. The font fits that baroque theme too, although it still could be a script font and have more detailed ornaments. All in all, I don't know why they chose this style, but it's not appallingly ugly. B tier. The 1983 logo feels very 80s again, especially the font. It has mostly very round letters, except for the G with this sharp corner. Some of the characters are cropped at the top, which in my opinion just adds to the chaos. To me it feels like these are 3 different styles in one font. The logo mark is a flower, where the petals are music notes. I think that looks a little silly, but why not? C tier. In 1984 they used another round font, but this time one with a consistent style. The lines add a playful twist to it. This is also the first time in 30 years that they included the host broadcast on the logo. That wasn't really worth bringing back though. B tier. The 1985 logo screams 80s. I couldn't imagine a more retro-futuristic logo design if I wanted. It's really a testament to its time. A tier. In 1986, Norway brings us one of my favorite ESC logos. They managed to include musical symbols in a more subtle way than most others. It uses the lines of a music sheet and puts some text in there, and the script font matches the style of music notations. On top of that, they had the idea of making the G and C resemble the year of 86. It's truly an example of great Scandinavian design. S tier. In 1987, we've got this interesting logo. The green line is probably a 7 because it's 1987, but I don't know what these circles are. B tier. In 1988, the contest was held in Ireland, which is why they used a stylized harp in the logo mark, which is one of Ireland's national symbols. But they fell into the trap of replacing a letter of the word mark with a logo mark. Sure, we all know this has Eurovision, but if you didn't know, the harp instead of the letter V wouldn't be great for readability. C tier. The 1989 logo reflects the technological advancements of its time. It shows the Matterhorn in a striped style that was really popular, especially in the logos of tech companies like IBM and AT&T. Overall, it's not a bad logo for its time, but I wouldn't have block aligned the Swiss name. These free-floating letters are more confusing than readable. B tier. The 1990 logo reminds me of halftone comics. The lips are made up of many little circles. In this case, it's just a stylistic choice and not a result of printing techniques though. The yellow text is hard to read, but otherwise I can't complain too much. B tier. The 1991 logo is a real step back. I don't know what bothers me more, the exaggerated twirl of stars or the very illegible and badly aligned text. F tier. In 1992 we got a quite boring logo. For the first time in a while there's no logo mark. It's not very exciting. C tier. In 1993 we are back to Ireland, but this time I don't know what the logo mark stands for. It might be a stylized landscape. In any case, the shapes are refreshingly simple. A tier. In 1994 we are in Ireland once again, but this time I don't know what to say about this logo. The artwork looks like it was drawn by a 4-year-old, and maybe it was, and that was a new, thought-out concept. But on first glance, I just see an ugly drawing. I'm sorry. F tier. In 1995 we are back to Ireland, and it's a super weird logo again. What is happening? F tier. In 1996 we are finally not in Ireland again, but the logo is almost as chaotic. The letters have these random fragments, the orange shape is also very confusing, and the words aren't aligned consistently. On top of all that, we have a redundant broadcaster logo in the top left. F tier. In 1997, we are once again back to Ireland. This is incredible. But this time, the logo isn't as awful. They got their national symbol, the harp, again, which also doubles as a falling star. B tier. The 1998 logo brings back a logo we've seen before. The Eurovision Network logo from 1993. I didn't like the corporate feeling of that logo then, and I don't like it now. F tier. The 1999 logo uses the same network logo again, but in a slightly modified version. There are now 4 V's instead of 3, and one of them replaces a letter of the word mark. It's really the worst of both worlds. F tier. In 2000, we have lips in the logo again, like 10 years before, but very different in style. It's probably the most minimalistic logo we've seen, which I love. S tier. The 2001 logo might depict a butterfly, at least that was my first impression, because it reminded me of the old MSN logo. It could also be a heart though. It's a reasonably good logo. A tier. The 2002 logo has a lot of colorful pebbles. I don't know what it means, but the diverse colors are fun and could represent the cultural diversity of the ESC. B tier. In 2003, the logo looks like it represents some parliament. The circles look like seating rows to me, so I was reminded of the logo of the European Parliament. That's probably not what they were going for. C tier. So now we've looked at 48 logos, and while they were mostly different every year, there were some common threads. 1957 and 1964 used the same font. 1965, 68 and 69 incorporated the same Eurovision Network logo. 1970, 76 and 1980 featured the same shield icon. 1990 and 2000 both had lips in their logo. 1998 and 99 used another Eurovision Network logo. These similarities were very sporadic, but that would all change in 2004. 2004 saw the emergence of the new generic Eurovision Song Contest logo that's most familiar to us today. It was designed by the London-based agency JM International. This logo would be used every year, just with changes to the flag and the subline with the host and year. The word mark uses custom-made lettering, so there's no entire font for this. The V is replaced by a heart with the host country's flag inside. This underlines the love and unity the Eurovision Song Contest wants to spread. The sublines use the font Microgrammar. The square futuristic look of that font contrasts the handwritten word mark that is more dynamic and individual. When you look at it very closely, you see that there are rough edges and scratches. I think that's meant to emphasize the handmade look of the word mark. Every letter is unique, so the two O's and I's are different from each other. I put all of these variations in A tier. In 2015, this logo was updated by the agency Storytagic. They removed the rough edges and further fine-tuned the word mark. Every letter and the heart icon was slightly adjusted, making the overall look of the logo less edgy and more friendly and tidy. The sublines were changed from Microgrammar to Gotham, which also looks more friendly. I really like this redesign and put all of these new logos in S tier. So for 47 years, the Eurovision Song Contest had a different logo every year, and now it has used the almost same logo for 22 years. Which strategy is better? Personally, I like the idea of a strong, consistent Eurovision brand. Sure, a different logo every year also has advantages. It feels fresh every year and the host country can bring more of its culture into the event. But a consistent logo is much more recognizable. The audience can get much more attached to it. A middle ground would be a small, consistent part of the logo, like the wings in the different Olympics logos, while leaving most of the logo interchangeable. Maybe we'll see a design like that in the future, who knows. In the meantime, rest assured that it's not all just about the logo. Each year's event still has a unique visual identity. They come up with new key visuals and motion graphics every year, and there's so much work going into that, it would deserve its own video. But for now, our journey through the Eurovision logo history is complete. Thank you so much for watching through this, and see you next time.